Thank you for choosing American Pest CEUs. Hi, I'm Sean Reeves. I'm an Associate Certified Entomologist with American Pest CEUs. I've been in the pest management industry since 1999, and I'll be your instructor for today's course. Today's course was compiled by Jack Launius, who has served in the pest management industry since 1990. Let's talk about pest control as it relates to schools in Maryland. And it's going to be important for you to understand when it comes to treating schools in Maryland, there's going to be a whole set of rules just based on those applications. You're going to see them in the successive slides. 15.05.02.11 Posting of a sign on school grounds. A licensee or permittee applying a pesticide to a school ground shall post, at the time of application, a sign which conforms to the requirements of COMAR 15.05.01.15b-G. For application on school grounds, the notice of plan date and time of application required under this subsection may specify that weather conditions or other extenuating circumstances may cause the actual date of application to be postponed to a later date or dates. If the actual date of application is more than 14 days later than the planned date provided in the notice of the application required under this subsection shall be reissued. Contact person means an individual knowledgeable about integrated pest management and designated by a county board to act under subsection E of this section. The contact person shall act as a contact for inquiries about the integrated pest management system and maintain material safety data sheets and labels for all pesticides which may be used in the school district of the county board. Staff member means an employee of a school system, includes administrators, teachers, and other support personnel. Staff member does not include a registered employee or applicator certified by the department or a person assisting in the application of a pesticide. Universal notification means written notice by a school to all parents, guardians, and staff members. School means a public school in the public elementary and secondary system of the state. Space spraying means an application of a pesticide by discharge into the air throughout an area. Space spraying does not include crack and crevice treatment. A school that intends to use space spraying in a school building shall provide written notice at least 1 week beforehand by universal notification. The notice shall be on a separate paper sheet at least 8.5 inches by 11 inches in size and shall contain a common name of the pesticide to be used, a location of the space spraying, a planned date and time of space spraying, the following language. The Office of Pesticide Programs of the United States Environmental Protection Agency has stated, where possible, persons who potentially are more sensitive, such as pregnant women and infants less than 2 years old, should avoid any unnecessary pesticide exposure. If the pesticide is not addressed in the notice sent at the beginning of the school year, a brief description of the pesticide to be applied, a brief description of potential adverse effects based on the material safety data sheet of the pesticides to be applied, and the name and telephone number of the county designated contact person. At the beginning of each school year, a school shall include notice of the school's integrated pest management system in the school calendar or other universal notification. Each school system shall develop an appropriate means of in-school notification to students and staff members before a pesticide is applied in a school building or on school grounds of a middle school or high school. At the start of each school year, a school shall develop a pesticide notification list containing each staff member, and parent or guardian of a student attending the school who request in writing prior notification of a pesticide application made in the school building or on school grounds during the school year. The notice shall include a statement that explains the school's integrated pest management system and list any pesticide or bait station that may be used in a school building or on school grounds as part of the integrated pest management system. The notice shall include the name, address, and telephone number of the contact person, a statement that the contact person maintains the product label or material safety data sheet of each pesticide or bait station that may be used by the school in buildings and on school grounds, that the label or data sheet is available for review by a parent, guardian, staff member, or student attending the school, and that the contact person is available to parents, guardians, and staff members for information and comment and instructions for including a parent, guardian, or staff member on a pesticide notification list. Notice shall be given at least 24 hours before a pesticide is applied in a school building, elementary school, or on school grounds. The school shall provide to each parent, guardian, and staff member on the pesticide notification list the common name of the pesticide, location of the application, planned date and time of application, and this notification, and this notice. The Office of Pesticide Programs of the United States Environmental Protection Agency has stated, where possible, persons who potentially are more sensitive, such as pregnant women and infants less than 2 years old, should avoid any unnecessary pesticide exposure, and a brief description of potential adverse effects based upon the material safety data sheet of the pesticides to be applied. The school shall keep the pesticide notification list current and shall add additional names on written request by a staff member or by the parent or guardian of a student attending the school. The school shall make the pesticide notification list available to the department on request. The school shall provide written information of this section to a newly employed staff member or the parent or guardian of a student newly enrolled during the school year. The school may provide prior notification by written notice sent home with the student or provided to the staff member, telephone call, direct contact, or written notice mailed at least 3 days prior to the application. Pesticide does not include an antimicrobial agent such as disinfectant, sanitizer, or deodorizer used for cleaning purposes or any bait station. Crack and crevice treatment means the application of small amounts of a pesticide in a building into openings such as those commonly found at expansion joints, between levels of construction, and between equipment and floors. Emergency means a sudden need to mitigate or eliminate a pest which threatens the health or safety of a student or staff member. A pesticide may be applied in a school building or on school grounds without prior notification only if an emergency pest situation exists. Within 24 hours after an emergency pesticide application in a school building or on school grounds or on the next school day, the school shall notify each parent, guardian, and staff member on the pesticide notification list that a pesticide was applied for emergency pest control. The notification required shall include the common name of pesticide applied, approximate location of the application, date of application, and the reason for the emergency application. Notification under this subsection may be made by telephone call or direct contact or written notice sent home with the student or provided to the staff member. In the case of an emergency pesticide application at an elementary school, within 24 hours after an emergency pesticide application in a school building or on school grounds, or on the next school day, the school shall provide to each parent, guardian, and staff member, in addition, the location of the application, the date and time of application, the following language. The Office of Pesticide Programs of the United States Environmental Protection Agency has stated, where possible, persons who potentially are more sensitive, such as pregnant women and infants less than 2 years old, should avoid any unnecessary pesticide exposure, and a brief description of potential adverse effects based upon the material safety data sheet of the pesticides applied. Let's talk about integrated pest management systems in schools and school grounds. Integrated pest management means a managed pest control program in which methods are integrated and used to keep pests from causing economic, health-related, or aesthetic injury through the utilization of site or pest inspections, pest population monitoring, evaluating the need for control, and the use of one or more pest control methods including sanitation, structural repair, non-chemical methods, and when non-toxic operations are unreasonable or have been exhausted, pesticides in order to minimize the use of pesticides and minimize the risk to human health and the environment associated with pesticide applications. So many of you may understand, integrated pest management is using these different types of techniques outside of just using pesticides to manage pest populations. The goal of integrated pest management, as we stated, is minimizing the use of pesticides, which in turn minimizes the risk to human health and the environment associated with pesticide applications. So we understand if we follow the labels and we do things correctly, there's going to be less risk when we use pesticides, but anytime we can forego using pesticides by using integrated pest management techniques, it's going to be even better than making a pesticide application. Each school system shall develop appropriate means of in-school notification before a bait station is used in a school building. The means may include a sign posted on the door of the room in which the bait station is placed. Section 5-209, Supervision by Certified Persons. Each commercial application of a pesticide shall be under the supervision of a certified pest control applicator or certified public agency applicator who is responsible and liable for the application. Each application of a restricted use pesticide by a certified private applicator shall be done under his supervision, and he is responsible and liable for the application. And this just speaks to the importance of having a certified applicator on staff. Now, this is required by state law, but you also have to understand this certified applicator is the one that knows how to use the pesticides, how to use them correctly, and how to follow all the state laws. So this is why this person is responsible and liable for those applications. So a certified applicator really is the person that also should be training people to make sure they understand how, when, where, and why to use a pesticide, and making sure that they keep good records of that training and the pesticide applications as well. Section 5-209.1 Employee Training Programs. A licensee or permittee shall register with the department any employee who performs pest control. Within 30 days after employment and before registration, an employee, other than a certified applicator, shall successfully complete training approved by the department. An employee who has not successfully completed training may only apply pesticides if a certified applicator or registered employee is physically present at the time and place the pesticide is applied by the employee. Section 5-210 Labels Unlawful Use of Pesticide. A person may not use, apply, or recommend use of a pesticide other than as specified by the label. The label includes material attached to the container, a brochure, information furnished with the pesticide, or any information contained in the approved state registration of the pesticide. A person may not use, apply, or recommend use of a pesticide in a manner other than as specified by this subtitle or rules and regulations adopted under it. Section 5-210.1 Reciprocity. The Secretary may enter into reciprocal agreements with other states to provide that non-resident applicators or pest control consultants may be exempt from examination requirements under this subtitle if certified under equivalent plans of other states approved by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, granting similar exemptions to residents of this state upon payment of such fees as are required by Maryland applicators or pest control consultants, and upon meeting any additional requirements that may be required in the agreement. Civil penalties. What breaking the law can cost you. Being misinformed or not believing the law pertains to you can cost you. Don't allow yourself to believe, if I only do it this one time, nobody will catch me, or be naive enough to think that no one will see you. Section 5-210.2 Civil penalties. This is a long list of penalties. The best advice that can be given is, know the law and don't break the law. A person who violates any provision of this subtitle is subject to a civil penalty of not more than $2,500 for a first violation of this subtitle. A person who violates any provision of this subtitle is subject to a civil penalty of not more than $5,000 for each subsequent violation of this subtitle. Each day a violation under this subsection occurs is a separate violation. In addition to the denial, suspension, or revocation of the license, permit, or certificate, the Secretary may impose a civil penalty on the holder of a license, permit, or certificate. The total penalties imposed on a person for violation under this subtitle that result from the same set of facts and circumstances may not exceed $25,000. The penalty imposed on a person under this section shall be assessed with consideration given to the willfulness of the violation, the extent to which the existence of the violation was known to the violator but uncorrected by the violator, and the extent to which the violator exercised reasonable care. Any actual harm to human health or to the environment, including injury to or impairment of the use of waters of this state or the natural resources of this state. This is also going to involve the cost of control, the nature and degree of injury to or interference with general welfare, health, and property, the extent to which the location of the violation, including location near areas of human population, creates the potential for harm to the environment or to human health or safety, and the extent to which the current violation is part of a recurrent pattern of the same or similar type of violation committed by the violator. Section 5-210.3 Limitations on employer. An employer may not require a pest control applicator, as a condition of employment, to transport pesticides in a commercial transportation vehicle that does not contain a compartment for the pesticides that is separated from the passenger area, or in a manner that does not provide adequate protection for the safety and health of the passengers from the pesticides. Section 5-210.4 Injunctions. The Secretary may bring an action for an injunction against a person who violates any provision of this subtitle. In an action for an injunction under this section, any finding of the Secretary after a hearing is prima facie evidence of each fact the Secretary determines. On a showing that a person is violating any provision of this subtitle, a court shall grant an injunction without requiring a showing of a lack of an adequate remedy at law. An action for an injunction under this section is in addition to, and not instead of, criminal prosecution. Section 5-211, Penalty, Indemnification for financial injury from violation, actions for civil damages. Notwithstanding any other provision of this article, any person who violates any provision of this subtitle is guilty of a misdemeanor, and upon conviction is subject to a fine not exceeding $1,000 or imprisonment not exceeding 60 days, or both, with cost imposed in the discretion of the court. Instead of, or in addition to, any other penalty provided for in this section, the court may award indemnification to any person who is contracted with the defendant and who has suffered financial injury or damages because of the violation of any provision of this subtitle. The amount of any indemnification awarded shall be limited to the actual amount paid for the services by the injured party. Nothing in this section shall abrogate the right of any person to bring an action for civil damages for violations of this subtitle. 15.05.01.18 Enforcement. The Department may issue a civil penalty or suspend, revoke, or deny any license, certificate, permit, or registered employee identification card for any of the following reasons: violating any provision of the Maryland Pesticide Applicators Law, these regulations, or the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act as amended; failing to establish and consistently maintain liability insurance required by this chapter; conducting a pesticide application or inspection for pest in a faulty, careless, or negligent manner; failing to make or maintain records or reports as required by the Department; making false or fraudulent records or reports, including a false or misleading pest inspection report; operating equipment for the purpose of applying pesticides without the supervision of a certified applicator; committing fraud or misrepresentation in making application for licensure or certification; exceeding the limits of the type of purpose of operation as defined on the license, certificate, or permit; failing or neglecting to maintain equipment used in pesticide application in good and proper working order; presenting false or misleading information in the inspection for identification of or control of pests; being convicted of fraud in the performance of pest control; failing to allow the Department to inspect or sample; applying a pesticide without a certificate or license as required by this chapter; failing to provide the Secretary any requested record as required by this chapter; failing to ensure that each employee, other than a certified applicator, completes a Department-approved training program; failing to pay a civil penalty imposed under this chapter, or applying a pesticide to the property of another without the express permission of this property's owner or other person with authority to exercise control, management, or possession of the property. In an emergency, the Secretary shall suspend a license, certificate, or other permit immediately upon finding that public health, safety, or welfare imperatively warrants it. An individual whose certificate or part is revoked or suspended may be required to retake the examination in the category for which that individual applies to be recertified after the suspension or revocation. 15.05.01.19 Hearings and Appeals. When a person is charged by the Secretary with a violation of this chapter, the Secretary shall give the person charged an opportunity to be heard concerning procedural rules on hearings. Following an emergency suspension, a hearing shall be held promptly. A person whose license, certificate, permit, or registered employee identification card is denied, revoked, or suspended may appeal according to department regulations and the Administrative Procedure Act. 15.05.01.02 General Requirements for Applying or Recommending Pesticides. This regulation sets forth the general requirements which a person, when applying or recommending a pesticide, shall follow. Pesticide use or recommendation. When using or recommending pesticides, a person shall use or recommend only those pesticides which are registered with the department. Use of recommended pesticides in strict accordance with the Maryland Pesticide Applicators Law, the Maryland Pesticide Registration and Labeling Law, and, except as otherwise provided by state and federal law, the manufacturer's labeling directions. Observe all precautions in the handling, use, storage, and disposal of pesticides and their containers so that pesticides do not move from the intended site of application. Non-target areas or organisms, including humans, do not suffer injury, and unreasonable adverse effects on the environment do not occur or are minimized, and comply with worker protection standard. Limitations on restricted use pesticide. A person may not use a restricted use pesticide unless that person is a certified applicator or is a person working under the supervision of a certified applicator. Restrictions on use of pesticides in the cultivation of medical cannabis. Exemptions. A person may not use any pesticide in the cultivation of medical cannabis, defined as any part of the plant Cannabis sativa. A person may use a pesticide in the cultivation of medical cannabis that is labeled for use in a greenhouse environment that is formulated with inert and active ingredients, has been exempted from the food residue tolerance requirements, and has met the criteria for organic food production. It is allowed by the United States Environmental Protection Agency by label language that is broad enough to include use on cannabis as determined by the department. A person may use a pesticide on hard surfaces of items and areas used to support operations in the cultivation of medical cannabis for the purpose of disinfection or sanitation, for the control of microorganisms, provided that the pesticide is labeled for use on hard surfaces, including benches, floors, pallets, pots, skids, tools, and equipment. Any spray adjuvant that is labeled for use on food crops can be used with a pesticide that is applied to medical cannabis that has the intended use allowed by the spray adjuvant label. Spray adjuvant use is limited to those allowed for use with an insecticide or fungicide. If a pesticide is used in the cultivation of medical cannabis, it shall be applied in a manner consistent with state and federal application requirements. Any pesticide used in the cultivation of medical cannabis shall be registered according to Agriculture Code of Maryland. The department shall publish a list of pesticides for use in the cultivation of medical cannabis that is updated annually. The Natalie M. Laprade Medical Cannabis Commission may remove any pesticide from the list of approved pesticides if there is reasonable, documented evidence that the pesticide has the potential to cause harm to patients using medical cannabis. The department may issue a stop sale order to any registrant of a pesticide that the Secretary finds is in violation of agricultural article. The department may issue a stop sale order to any registrant of a pesticide that the Secretary finds is in violation of Agriculture Article Title V, Annotated Code of Maryland, or has been found by federal or state authorities to cause unreasonable adverse effects to humans, animals, or the environment. Restrictions on use of insecticides that contain chlorpyrifos. Aerial applications prohibited. A person may not conduct an aerial application of any insecticide containing chlorpyrifos in the state. Fruit trees and snap bean seeds until June 30th, 2021, a person may use an insecticide containing chlorpyrifos. After June 30th, 2021, such applications are prohibited unless authorized by the Secretary. Limited particular use authorization. After December 31st, 2020, a person may file a written application with the Department requesting authorization to use an insecticide that contains chlorpyrifos or seeds that have been treated with chlorpyrifos for a particular use. If the Secretary has determined that there are no effective alternatives for the particular use noted in the application, the Secretary may authorize such use for a specified period of time, which may not extend beyond December 31st, 2021. Section 5-210.5 Restricted use pesticides. In this section, cyclodine termiticide means chlordane. On or after October 1st, 1987, each cyclodine termiticide distributed, sold, or offered for sale in this state shall be classified as a restricted use pesticide. A person may distribute, sell, or offer for sale a cyclodine termiticide only if the cyclodine termiticide is designated as a restricted use pesticide in a manner determined by the Department, and the purchaser is a certified pesticide applicator or registered employee who has completed a course in termiticide application that is approved by the Department. A cyclodine termiticide applied by a licensee shall be applied only by a certified pesticide applicator, a registered employee who has completed a course in termiticide application that is approved by the Department and is making the application under the direct supervision of a certified pesticide applicator. Special requirements for fumigation operations. Requirements pertaining to employees. To perform fumigation work, an employee of a licensee, permittee, or certificate holder. Be trained in fumigation practices, have adequate knowledge of the fumigant, and be provided with safety equipment necessary for the employee's protection. Notification requirement. Soil fumigation. Before applying a soil fumigant within 300 feet of any residence, the certified applicator shall notify the occupant of the residence at least 24 hours before the application, either by telephone, in person, or by written notice delivered to the residence. The notice shall include the following: name of the certified applicator in charge and the applicator's telephone number, where the applicator can be reached at any time, name of fumigant, and date and approximate time of fumigation, and estimated length of fumigation period. Take a moment to review the card on the side that shows what would be required. Structural fumigation. Before conducting any structural fumigation, the certified applicator shall give written notice to the local fire and health departments. The notice shall include the following: pesticide business name, address, telephone number, and license number, name of the certified applicator in charge and the applicator's telephone number, or numbers where the applicator can be reached at all times, name of fumigant, location, and type of structure, and date and approximate time of fumigation, and estimated length of fumigation period. Take a few moments to review the card on the side of the screen to see exactly what this should look like. The certified applicator shall post a warning sign on each side of the structure, container, or commodity to be treated. Each sign shall include the skull and crossbones, the name of the fumigant, a warning statement, such as keep out, the name of the company, and the name and telephone number of the pest control applicator. You can see what this looks like on the right side of the screen. With the exception of commodities fumigated in transit or soil fumigation, the certified applicator shall post a guard on site during the entire fumigation period. A guard shall always remain on duty at the site to prevent unauthorized persons from coming into contact with the fumigant. Required inspection. The certified applicator shall clear a structure or area of all persons before the fumigation. The applicator shall inspect the structure or area before reoccupancy for safe re-entry. A licensee or public agent permittee applying a pesticide to a lawn or to exterior landscape plants shall post at the time of application a sign. The sign shall remain 48 hours following the pesticide application, after which time the customer is responsible for the removal of the sign. This is an idea of what the sign should look like. A person may not remove, alter, or deface the sign, or agree or conspire with another person to remove, alter, or deface the sign within 48 hours of its posting. The customer or licensee may not be held liable for any penalty for sign removal under this subtitle if the sign is removed by another person or cause over which the customer or licensee has no control. The sign shall be clearly visible either from the principal place of access to the property or be clearly visible on the portion of the property where the pesticide is applied. The sign shall contain a uniform statement approved by the department. 15.05.01.15 Posting of sign. A licensee or permittee applying a pesticide to a lawn or to exterior landscape plants shall post, at time of application, a sign which conforms to the requirements of this regulation. This regulation applies only to a licensee or permittee in the Pest Control Category 3, Ornamental and Turf. The licensee or permittee who is required to post a sign under this regulation shall model it after that shown. We'll give you a few seconds to review the sign. Here's some requirements of the sign. 1. Size, 4 inches in height times 5 inches in width. 2. Composition, made of a sturdy, weather-resistant material. 3. Type, needs to be rigid, as opposed to a flag. 4. Color, yellow background with black, bold-faced lettering. 5. Information contained on front of sign, the same words and symbols in the specified sizes as shown in Figure A here to the right. We'll give you a few moments to review this sign. Six. Information contained on the back of the sign shall A. Indicate the following. 1. Date applied. 2. Name of licensee, permittee. 3. Telephone number of licensee or permittee. B. Be at least 18-point type, 5/32 inch in size, and be either stamped or hand printed on the sign, printed on a stick-on label, and placed on the sign or printed on the sign. You see an example of this on the right. 7. Stake, flexible, preferably not wire. 8. Posting height. The bottom of the sign shall be at least 12 inches, but not more than 16 inches above the surface of the soil. C. For cemeteries, golf courses, parks, and similar sites, the department may permit the licensee or permittee, before posting the sign, to vary the sign characteristics required by this regulation. D. The licensee or permittee shall place the sign required by this regulation at one of the following locations. 1. At each primary access to the property treated, with the front of the sign facing the access. 2. If only a spot pesticide application is made, or only a small area of a large area receives a pesticide application, a sign may be posted at the location where the pesticide application was made, with the front of the sign facing the probable path of access to the area. Or 3. For cemeteries, golf courses, parks, and similar sites, a sign shall be placed as described in 1 and or 2 above. 15.05.01.16 Pesticide information for customer. A. When a pesticide is applied, or at the time a customer enters into a contract with the licensee for pest control, a licensee shall provide a customer with the following written information. 1. Name of licensee. 2. Maryland Pesticide Business License Number. 3. Licensee telephone number. 4. Maryland Poison Center telephone number. 5. Common name of pesticide or active ingredient applied. And 6. One of the following. A. An original or legible copy of the current pesticide product label. B. An original or a legible copy of that portion of the current pesticide product label or labeling containing precautionary statements regarding hazards to humans or animals and environmental hazards, if any. Or C. A document containing appropriate health, safety, or precautionary information that has been taken from the pesticide label and approved by the department before its distribution. In addition to the required information in this regulation, a licensee may provide the customer with additional product information, such as a Material Safety Data Sheet, MSDS, a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency fact sheet on the product, or additional labeling information provided by the product manufacturer registrant. Product information, other than the current product label or labeling, that the licensee provides to the customer to comply with the requirements of this regulation shall be approved by the department before its distribution. Upon the customer's request, the licensee shall provide the customer with advance notice of a pesticide application. 15.05.01.17 List of pesticide-sensitive individuals. This regulation applies to a licensee or permittee in the following pest control categories. Category 3, Ornamental and Turf, as described in Regulation .08A 3 of this chapter, and Category 8, Public Health, including the management of mosquitoes. The department shall prepare, from information provided by an applicant for registration, a list of pesticide-sensitive individuals who have registered with the department and property owners who are contiguous or adjacent to those registered individuals and who may contract for pest control. The department shall distribute the list by February 15th of each year to licensees and permittees in the Ornamental and Turf Pest Control category and Public Health Pest Control category. Requirements of licensee or permittee. Before making a pesticide application to a property contiguous or adjacent to the property of a registered individual, a licensee or permittee shall notify the person registered with the department by telephone the day before or the morning of a planned pesticide application, or in person, or by a written notice delivered to the residence of the registered individual before the pesticide is applied to a contiguous or adjacent property. 15.05.01.06 Specific requirements for storing pesticides. At minimum, a person licensed, certified, permitted, or registered by the department under this chapter who is storing non-bulk pesticides shall ensure that the pesticides being stored and the pesticide storage areas meet the following requirements. The storage area shall be secured or locked to prevent unauthorized access. Pesticides shall be stored in a separate building or at a minimum shall be separated by a physical barrier from living and working areas and from food, feed, fertilizer, seed, and safety equipment. A warning sign approved by the department shall be placed on the exterior of the storage area. Pesticides shall be stored in a dry, ventilated area. The pesticide storage area shall be kept clean. A supply of absorbent material sufficient enough to absorb a spill equivalent to the capacity of the largest container in storage shall be kept in the storage area. The storage area shall contain only pesticide containers that are properly labeled and are free of leaks. The storage area shall have an appropriate fire extinguisher available, and pesticides shall be stored in an area located at least 50 feet from any water well or stored in secondary containment approved by the department. And I just want to mention here, this is very important. The reason why you need to store pesticides at least 50 feet away from any water well or in a secondary containment approved by the department is because you're dealing with pesticide concentrates. These concentrates could spring a leak at any time, or there could be a spill somewhere in that storage area, and you have to understand, if that actual concentrated product starts to leak outside of that building, it very easily can contaminate something like a water well, and we all know that would be very dangerous for anybody in the area. 15.05.01.06 Transport of pesticides. During transport, pesticide containers and application equipment shall be secured to prevent shifting or release of pesticides. Pesticides may not be placed or carried in the same compartment as the driver, food, or feed unless, in a manner that provides adequate protection for the safety and health of passengers from the pesticides. And this is why typically throughout your pesticide career, you'll see something like we have in the image here. So this would be a truck that has a topper on the back over the bed of the truck. So the pesticides are not in the cabin with the pesticide applicator. Typically you would never want pesticides in the cabin with the pesticide applicator, because if you have a spill or anything like that, it's going to be right in that space where you're driving, and it's going to be a really big deal for you where you may come into contact or be exposed to that pesticide. Pesticide service containers. If pesticide concentrate is temporarily stored or transported, its containers shall have a securely attached label with the following information: common name, if available, or chemical name of pesticide, U.S. EPA registration number, signal word, either danger, warning, or caution, and percent of concentration. You can see on the right side of the screen what that should look like. Pesticide end-use dilutions or end-use concentrates. If a pesticide is stored or transported, excluding application equipment, and if it does not require further dilution, its containers shall have a securely attached label with the following information: common name, if available, or chemical name of pesticide preceded by the words diluted or end-use concentrate, U.S. EPA registration number, the signal word, danger, warning, or caution, and percent of concentration or pounds of active ingredient per volume. A pesticide container may not be used for any purpose other than containing the originally labeled product unless the product label states otherwise. Just so you're aware, anytime you're dealing with a pesticide container, the label's always going to let you know once you're finished with it how to clean it and dispose of it properly. There's almost never a reason where you would reuse a pesticide container unless the product label states that, which I don't think I've ever seen. The reality is, once you're done with a pesticide container, you need to clean it properly and you need to dispose of it properly, and typically never use it for any other type of use. Safety and precautionary requirements. A licensee, permit holder, certified applicator, or registered employee shall use an effective anti-siphon device or backflow preventer on all hoses or lines used to fill or rinse pest control equipment, pesticide containers, or areas where pesticides are mixed, loaded, or stored. Make use of scientific training, practical experience, and commonly recognized pesticide industry guidelines or recommendations which do not conflict with this chapter when inspecting for or treating pests. Consider recommended alternative pest control measures such as mechanical, cultural, physical, biological, or chemical control. Use and provide each employee with personal protective equipment and applicable safety information as indicated on the pesticide label or as required by regulation. Immediately notify the department by telephone of any pesticide accident, incident, fire, flood, or spill, and report to the department the full details of the event, including any remediation taken. Have available, at the time and place of application, a copy of the label for pesticide being applied. Notifying department of certain business changes, each licensee, permit holder, certified applicator, or consultant shall immediately notify the department in writing if there is any change in business ownership, name, address, or phone number. As a new licensee, it's essential to take the time to accurately complete your paperwork. Additionally, when servicing a client's property, making note of anything worth mentioning, whether minor or significant, can go a long way in building trust. This could be anything from a loose gate latch or a cracked window to a leaking hose bib, a broken tree limb, or a damaged vent screen. The key is to demonstrate attentiveness to their property and show that you're looking out for their best interest. If you come across something serious, always reach out to the client directly, and in urgent cases, immediately. Most importantly, document everything. Take pictures. Your phone serves as a dash cam for your protection, helping ensure clarity and accountability. And above all, always adhere to legal requirements. Compliance is non-negotiable. Congratulations, you have completed the course. Please proceed to the exam to receive your credit.